All right, we are live. We are rolling. Are you ready, Andrei?
Oh, I am.
Very good, very good. I'm an American sitting in Russia, and I have a guest today who is a Russian sitting in America.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about Ukraine versus Russia. I'm going to first get to know him for a minute because you might not know this guy, although I know many of you do. And then we're going to talk about the conflict, and then we're going to take your questions. Andrei, do you have any intriguing statements you'd like to make before I cue the intro music?
I have hour and 20 minutes. That's my statement.
Okay. I'll take that as a no. Welcome to Expat American. I am the Expat American, and sitting with us might be an expat Russian. All right, guys. Well, two things I want to say before I get into the questions here is I came to know this guy just through the internet, watching his commentary, as I'm sure many of you have. So it's been about a year where I've gotten to know this man who's a military consultant, I guess you would say. I consider him smart.
Well, I do sort of. I'm not really consultant. I do consult, but not really. I mean...
But let's say a military commentator.
Okay, that works. Yeah.
He's smart, but he's also funny, and he's serious, and I think a little bit scary, as any good man should be. And also, about 6 months ago, I noticed that sometimes my videos would get a spike in views for no apparent reason. And I checked my analytics, and it would say, Smoothie X has shared you. And I was like, who is Smoothie X? Does the CEO of Tropical Smoothie on my show?
Yeah.
Smoothie X12?
Yeah, that's important.
Exactly. So I put his link in the title and in the description, guys. Make sure you subscribe to his channel as well. And on this show, I want the questions to be and the answers to be intelligent. I want us to inform people that know everything, but I also want us to inform people that don't know anything. People who maybe just last week were a flaming liberal and now their eyes are opening and they want to know what's going on. So first off, Andrei, who are you?
Well, I'm Smoothie X12, and it has nothing to do with the OnlyFans or Pornhub. It's although I do sometimes the stints on the side, just to increase my, but reality is it's just a thing which stuck to me, one of my handles on the military forums. And because I couldn't really get any kind of the proper login. And it was Andrei Martyanov taken, this taken, all that taken. And after like half an hour of trying, I was like, okay, Smoothie taken, Smoothie X taken, Smoothie X1, it was a desperation already, just I needed to, log in. Taken. Smoothie X12. Bang, here we are. There you go. And after that, it just stuck for me. Probably for now, I don't know, almost 20 years, or close to it anyway. Wow. So, yeah, I'm former Soviet naval officer. I graduated, actually very, very famous at that time there in Baku. We are from Baku. We are ethnic Russians, but I was born in Baku in Azerbaijan, which is today independent Azerbaijan. I graduated Naval Academy, Kirov's Naval Academy. Some people mistake them with the Kirov Medical Academy, which also a military institution, which exists still in St. Petersburg. But mine was obviously Caspian High Naval, Red Banner Naval Academy. After Kirov, I graduated navigational department faculty, that's how it's called, and it's a 5-year, 6 days a week intense military and engineering training, and you have also the parallel specialty. Apart from my specialty sounds like this, the same as of everybody who we graduated for so many years, the specialist in the gyro inertial navigational complexes of the strategic missile systems, of the naval strategic missile systems. Basically, at my time, I graduated in '85. We have been trained to go either surface ships or go to submarines. and both multi-purpose and strategic missile submarines, and the foundation, so to speak, the basic thing which we were training were obviously, well, not obviously, but the submarines of the class of the Delta 1 and Delta 2, which is Project 667B BD. These were at that time pretty much mainstay of the naval strategic missile forces of Soviet Navy. I chose to go to the border guards, as many of us did, because our naval academy was the foundation for the what is called marine or naval units of the border guards of KGB USSR, which today is called Coast Guard. But I mean, when people begin to, Coast Guard, they should understand Soviet Coast Guard was armed to the hilt, So in fact is that's what many people do not understand. You go to the border guards and you go into the extremely high weapon density systems, and that's where I served until 1989, active duty, and then in reserve for a year and a half. So I was honorably discharged for the health reasons. It was I had the issues with the huge issues, in fact, of the stomach ulcer, and and then I took part into what was at that time collapse of the Soviet Union events in Baku and Azerbaijan and the Caucasus. So I ended up finishing my service and reserve status in Kamchatka, which I knew Kamchatka. I actually graduated school there. We traveled a lot. My family traveled a lot. I started my school as a youngster, in Baku. Then it was Sevastopol for 7 years. Then it was we moved to Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. And after that, essentially, Soviet Union collapsed. And I saw what was happening from the inside, obviously considering my social circle, which was the people of that time, senior ranks of the military officers, and obviously even the officers of the police. And and what was happening in Russia, by 1993, it became the essentially lawless territory. We lost everything, which the Soviet Union collapsed in Baku, in Azerbaijan. So we turned out to be basically homeless, So, and I started business, and there were some friends in United States, and they say, why don't you come here, essentially. So, and we essentially settled in the United States by 1995, I believe. But by 1993, of the events of the White House, and Yeltsin, basically president. So, I mean, there were no good people there on both sides. Okay, let's put it this way. So it was, what Vladimir Putin correctly stated, the civil war. Warm civil war that was ongoing. By 1995, Russia was paralyzed by the organized crime, and I knew what was going on there. And so we basically, when we left, we just like, hell with it. We don't want to play the game anymore, So, and you can ask Svetlana; she will tell you a lot about 90s, probably in Russia.
Yeah, she has, and I have friends here that went through that, because I'm 50. So
I went through this because of my circle, and we were essentially very much exposed in the sense that we knew and witnessed what is going on. I had many friends in the police, including some guy who actually we took him to the United States at some point of time, who was at that time would be the equivalent at that time. It was called ORB, Operational Investigative Bureau. It was kind of like FBI type thing, done he was the chief of the whole region. You won't believe what was happening there. I mean, families were disappearing, people were being killed left and right, and so that was it. And basically what happened, we said, we don't want to deal with this anymore. I would never risk my family. So we moved we kind of settled in the United States. And fact is, we were refugees, essentially. We had nothing.
Right.
So
when you moved to the U.S. for business, would you say that was the good place to live at that time?
It was magnificent, outstanding country. I mean, the United States was still awash in this, how to say, the confidence, basically wave of confidence after the collapse of the Soviet Union, wrongly considering that it was the United States which, collapsed the Soviet Union, which has nothing to do with the reality. Soviet Union imploded on precisely the reasons for which I spoke a little bit, and of course broke up, along those stunts and all kinds of the ethnic, republics and things of this nature. And you probably know the backsplash of this even today. You should be aware about the Azeri diaspora being demolished in Russia today. That's the end also of the very long time of the ethnic criminal groups and things like that. So, and the United States, you just come in and it's safe. It's not only safe, you just suddenly apart from the fact I was obviously spoiled. We ended up in the Pacific Northwest, and you know what? It just charms you. It's the beauty is insane. I always laugh when people say, "Oh, Switzerland, alpine, nature." Dudes, come to Washington or Oregon, okay? Your Switzerland is like backwater, and you have ocean. And of course, I am a water creature, despite the fact that
now, do you? It must be kind of odd because now the time we're living in, do you find yourself looking towards Russia and thinking, "Wow, now this might be the place to live"? Is that going through your mind? Is the U.S. at a point where Russia was when the USSR disappeared, or what do you think about that?
Well, it's different, obviously. There are no direct analogies or parallels, albeit very many people are tempted to say, "Oh, okay, is there similarities? Some similar, of course there are, but it's United States is so complex that it's kind of completely different dynamics operating here, and so there are some similarities. Do we look at Russia living there? We think about it, but the point is, it's our home now, United States, for 30 plus years. Okay, so it's our children essentially have completely, they are Americans for all intents and purposes.
Right.
And in this case, you look at this and probably say, you know what, hell with it, unless, of course, something like United States begins to, explode or implode on such a way that you simply have no option. But other than that, no, we are not living. We visit Russia. We love to visit Russia. You know what? But just to give you an example, I can take Moscow only for about 10 days. After that, I mean, it is. I love Moscow. I love St. Petersburg. There are many places, but the point is, after 10 days, about 10 days, I begin to miss my, suburban, or rather, small, relatively small town. We are not far from Seattle here, and you lived, and this age. Listen, I'm not 35 or 40 years old anymore. I'm 63 almost. So, and it's kind of, that's what I want to do. Because this, and you have to really think about your own mortality and the end of life, and so what you leave for people. And I do my job. I write books, which are evidently pretty popular around the specific, especially community, which is dealing with the geopolitics and national security issues all around the globe, not only in the United States. So I think, okay, that's my heritage, essentially, So, and as I already stated, unless the United States implodes in the most drastic way, which still not, you cannot completely discard this possibility, then
well, I mean, you and I are both older. I mean, I'm 50, and so we know that we have to look. We have 30 years or whatever, but we have our kids to think about too. So it's kind of encouraging, because if you're planning to stay and not convince your family to leave, then I would guess that you're betting that although things are bad in the U.S., you expect that they'll come back around and improve. That's your guess.
I always say this: United States is not dead yet. It might be very soon, but I also have to. That's what I do. That's how I made my name and career in what I do for the last, more than 10 years. Is that I don't do forecasting. I do not take any forecasting coming out of the West especially seriously, let's put it this way.
Uh-huh.
But I do describe a framework in which things happen, and that is why I am on record for the last few years that Europe is done, but United States is not dead yet. But this is the small font, the caveats, so to speak. If it goes through this, that, and that, so far I don't see it, but there are some, vectors, if you wish, forming. And I just made a video about Arctic Circle. I just put it up on YouTube. That United States, at least, and with Canada, obviously, Canada is kind of like, the next neighbor. So it's have enough resources to do it if it's done right. Okay, the United States is a large country, it's a huge country, and there are many resources which the United States can properly appropriate, but we have obviously the situation with the elites which are totally degenerate.
Right. Well, you give me two thoughts, and then I want to get on to Ukraine. And one is, you said Europe is done, so of course the land and will still be there. Some people will live there. So you mean that Europe will be like, it'll end up becoming subservient to Asia or the Middle East or the US? Is that what you're thinking? It'll just be kind of like
no, I mean, the European civilization, as we know, is dead. It is post-Christian, post-European, and post-modernist. So the West, as we knew it for the last 500 years, is pretty much over, which, of course, we know all Renaissance, Enlightenment, and things like that, which all came out of Europe, those great, accomplishments, and including some things, of course, like colonialism, for example, which was exploiting people, and but that's how Europe also became rich, essentially, apart from obviously giving the world immense contribution in terms of art, culture, science. We live in the world which is shaped by the Western civilization. So it's over, it's done. It's not like it's fait accompli. We have the degenerate elites, brainwashed population, not all of it, but most. I don't know them. And when you look at that, did you see the opening of the Paris Olympic Games? This is everything you need to know. Period. It's a Sodom
really sad.
It's Satanism, pure and simple, and they love it.
Imagine if you're a 10-year-old right now and you're seeing that on TV and you're thinking to yourself, so this is what the adults of the world are?
Yeah, that's exactly
who's shaping me and molding me, and this is the world that I'm
exactly
going into?
what Europe is. This is Europe is. It's also pedophile central. So it's basically, this is all basically features or items you need to consider when you talk about the collapse of the civilization. European civilization has collapsed. So now it's just a matter of how they will decompose completely. Will it be? I don't think so. The male population of Europe have been cuckolded into the utter oblivion. They don't have, the manlyhood. It was emasculated. They might try to do something, but as they told to one of the Russian parliamentaries from the European Parliament, when he asked, it wasn't the news, in Russia, he asked, what are we going to do? I mean, you see, we have people basically ready to, rise up and say, oh, no, we have enough dogs and police and other forces to put them down and, basically sink them in the blood. Yeah, that's who they are. And then we have, obviously, Islamization, which is, it's horrendous. And France, for example, openly lies about the demographic situation. And if you look attentively at who will go first, Belgium goes first. France probably not going to exist by 2050. Now I hear opinions that actually, oh boy, you are very optimistic about France. It's probably not going to exist by 2035 as we used to know it, So, and when you have about 40% population who are immigrants who do not share any of your values, they, so what do you expect?
Right. So Russia will preserve European culture and perhaps the US as well.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. And, like when you're younger, laugh at this guy. Oh, yeah, some priest, Russian Orthodox priest said, oh, yeah, there were two Romes. Russia is the third Rome, and there will be no fourth one. And then you look at it, good Lord, that's what is happening indeed, And yeah, there are many good European people who retained the normal morality, but for the most part, it's over. And so no matter what they do, it's going to end up, I don't know, it's completely, United States is different in this respect, and that's the difference. United States is a crazy country as we speak, but there is one thing which is absolutely, first, we here have Bill of Rights, and actually freedom of speech is constitutionally protected. It doesn't mean that you will always enjoy it, but you can fight and win in the court. Obviously, for some people who are poor, it may completely destroy them financially, but there are now many people who are offering help for pro bono, and then the United States has a very powerful alternative media, which are becoming actually more than alternative. They are beginning to crush their establishment media, which is nothing but bunch of the war criminals, pedophiles, all kinds of human trash, which isn't there. And they're losing audiences tremendously. Once those vile generation of baby boomers, who is the most despicable pieces of, not all of them, but generation of the, pardon my French, assholes, okay? They die out because they are the main consumers of this garbage, including the supporters of the woke ideology. And new generation of political, politicians comes up on, on the stage. There could be something different, and you can see here and there. And then, of course, there is the issue of the obviously Israeli first and AIPAC, then Christian Zionism issue, which actually is a cancer, which is United States from the inside. But you know what? I have to admit, these were alternative media which led this, support for Palestinians and condemning the, what Israel does to the genocide they essentially unleashed in Gaza. And that's like, that's something, okay? The public is waking up, And Americans are not as stupid as many try to, there are some stupid people everywhere. Russia also has a bunch of the imbeciles, So it's absolutely normal that people have, but in terms of alternative media, my God, look at Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens. They have audiences CNN can only dream about, okay?
I mean, yeah, and you're part of it too. You're one of the talking heads.
Something, by the way, that's why I said I have hour and 20. Then I go on the WBIA radio station. It's a famous FM station in New York, and we did about 2 weeks ago. Randy did the live show. Me, Larry Johnson, and Colonel Danny Davis.
Oh wow.
Well, we had the audience which live was listening, 136,000, and probably is the same as the others listened it on the online or something. So we beat most of the shows, in New York alone by CNN or kind of like this. So that tells you something, okay? And now today I'm going back again with Larry. And we're going to be talking about, I don't know how many people are going to be turning, Randy strategically places us the moment when Friday New Yorkers are going home from work. So they listen to his radio. So.
Right. Okay. Well, real quick then, this is not a part of my list, but you're staying, other US people are listening to this and they're thinking, okay, he's staying. I have some hope. Are there any people that you think you're looking at, you're thinking, wow, I like JD Vance, or I like this guy, or I like that guy, this might be the future.
No.
Or you think
I don't like anybody from Washington, D.C.
So it's just more of a cultural thing that you think
you stay and you fight for your country. That's period. This is what it is. I did my job, almost was killed 3 times. And I'm not kidding. The second time, actually, it was the huge weapons accident, but it's the whole other story. But the point is, for United States, as much as we say, oh, hoi polloi, primitive MAGA crowd, you know what? you stay and fight for your country. You go out and you just do this everyday job, which sometimes seems like absolutely useless and leading nowhere. But this is how you do it. You build momentum across the strata of people. And there are many Americans. In fact, I would say that there are majority of them. And especially when we have the situation with the Epstein files and pedophilia rings and all that. And suddenly you have this, and especially Gaza, you know, and then suddenly you have the what they call right, which they are not right wing, but I mean, conservative, real conservatives. This is now real conservatism begins to show itself. Before that, United States, Republican Party is not conservative party. It has nothing to do with this.
Right.
So, and you have conservative commentators, and you have even what we would call left wing, you know, liberals. And then suddenly they come together, they talk and say, yeah, we disagree on this and that, but we have to do this. This is like, oh, the momentum is building, you know. And when you have Anna Kasparian talking to Tucker, it's like, oh,
yeah.
And they share a lot of in common in like, good Lord, you know, so that's what it is. And if Democrats have to really dissolve the Democratic National Committee, which is corrupted utterly, you know, the correctly called Party of Chaos, and U.S. Congress is primarily controlled by Israel, by Netanyahu, you know, and Trump is also, he is a coward, basically. So, but that's the funny thing about it. You can build a broader consensus in the United States precisely because when you look at the dynamics of bypassing the mainstream media and those cretins from baby boomer generation who are just only about me, those people have no honor, no integrity, you know. So, but when you see how it is being bypassed and you have the different people from different walks of life saying, this cannot continue like this, we have to do something about it. That's important, okay? And this is in Europe, you cannot do that. In UK, you're going to be thrown into the you know what, into jail for social media posts, you know.
Right, it's terrible.
But
well, what about someone like me? I left the country. You said you
enjoy the country which has an amazing future. Absolutely. And that is everybody has their own way, but you absolutely correctly stated that Russia is the Noah's Ark for Western civilization, whatever is left of it. Russia is Western civilization now. If United States wants to be, it's the whole other story. It's the other can of worms, and we can speak about it. But for many people, including Americans, Canadians, and all that, Russia is the Noah's Ark. You come to Russia and you saw yourself, it's a free country. You know, there are many things.
If people are considering it, I say, you know, if you've got little kids, if your kids are like 5 to 15, that's when you really need to consider maybe for them, I need to go here now. But if you're like, you know, 20 and you have no kids and you really like the idea of the U.S., I think that you probably should stay and you should fight for it going in the right direction. All right, cool. Well, then let's get to Russia and Ukraine before we run out of time. So again, for the people that are watching that are newly waking up to this, there's a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You know, they watched a Tom Clancy movie and they're thinking, whoa, maybe I got it all wrong, right? and so what would you tell them to bring them up to speed? And what would you tell the people who already believe that want a good way to let their friends know what's really going on?
Oh, there's one thing which people have to understand. It is not between Russia and Ukraine, or whatever is left of it, or if it is going to exist at all, which I don't think it will exist in a few years as a state. It's between Russia and NATO. It's between Russia and combined West. And if people do not understand it, I don't know how to deliver it to them, but actually we are not on precipice. We are in the new world order, where United States actually is just another great power, and not even the most powerful one, despite the fact of many things which they sell as propaganda, you know, and USA, you know, like all kinds of things like that, of that nature. No. This is completely different world. But Russia is finishing the business of finishing off their what we talk about the combined West as it exists today, because it doesn't have the right to exist, because it's it's the poisonous for the existence of the pretty much global civilization, and especially what many people call today the global South. And United States and combined West have been defeated already. It's a fait accompli. Now what we are in is the arrangement phase, and Russians are not rushing, because why would Russia, basically sacrifice more lives of Russian servicemen when it could be done, in the combination of the political and military means, which is happening. And as Al Capone used to say, you can get much further with the kind word and the gun than with the kind word alone. This is exactly what is happening. And Russian demands didn't change since 2022. In fact, since 2021, and it doesn't matter what West says or how the politicians react or whatever, it doesn't matter. The only thing which matters, and I'm sorry to say this, but this is how we are as species, this is how we are biologically and intellectually. The only thing which ever matters and will continue to matter for the foreseeable future is the military industrial power. Russia has it.
So what you're saying is, right. So what you're saying is, if you run the numbers, it is better for Russian lives to finish it now.
Not necessarily. Okay. I mean, finish now. What do you mean?
No. Continue to finish the conflict. Not do a ceasefire.
Yeah, there's no ceasefire. There will be no ceasefire, except for those tactical ceasefires, for example, like they happened already like 3 or 4 times along the line of contact, because 99% of the corpses there are Ukrainian corpses, and they begin to decompose, and it becomes dangerous to both sides. So they do that 24-hour thing, and they collect those remains and things of this nature. So other than that, no, it's all continuous, and until Zelensky regime is completely annihilated and Nazis, I mean, the aims remain unchanged. Denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine, and with it of NATO. What is happening now, we are in the phase of the total demilitarization of NATO, including the United States. NATO as a whole simply ran out of weapons to give to Ukraine. And as a result, Russians are outproducing NATO by order of magnitude on critical ammunition and weapons, especially in terms of the high precision and smart weaponry and long range fires. So, and as a result, yeah, Russia can do it, for another 2 years if it comes down to it. And we have now catastrophic numbers. So officially confirmed number now is that Ukraine has 1.8 plus million killed KIAs. So you multiply this number by 2, roughly, you get about 3.6 million, which are maimed, wounded, PTSD, completely mental breakdown and things like that. So, and I understand it sounds horrible, but Russians can do it until the last Ukrainian. That's what West wanted, but because you have people who are incompetent in Pentagon, CIA, all those, let alone the clowns from Bundeswehr or France or what have you, they don't know what real war is. They believed all those propaganda things, about Russia, that Putin's regime is, on the last legs, and Russians want, as this imbecile Lambrecht stated, Putin now is going to be denied shopping on Champs-Élysées, and can you imagine Russians not having Louis Vuitton overpriced junk? What a catastrophe! This is the level. It's right. You have to understand. Obviously, United States doesn't have a Russian expertdom as the viable academic field. For example, most people who from Harvard, Stanford, Ivy League, who teach Russia studies there, or most, not all, of those professors, they are academic frauds. They even made, remember Mr. McFall, who became the ambassador of the United States in Russia in 2010. The guy's a certified imbecile. Yet here he is. He basically consults all those people You read anything written by Rand or American generals speaking about war, it's kindergarten.
Yeah, again, it's like these are the adults. It's very sad.
Yeah, they are mature level of teenagers, and they're downright morons. If you look actually at the battlefield situation, especially after famous counteroffensive in 2023, these were American and NATO generals who planned it. That was planned by amateurs. That's unbelievable.
Do you think that Trump is aware of everything you just described in the last 10 minutes? I mean, he met with Putin for 3 hours.
Trump is narcissist.
Okay.
And people who know him, Larry wrote piece, and his friends also met Trump. He's a very insecure man. On public, he plays this, this, good Lord, I don't know, bully and all that. In reality, he's, as any narcissist, and he is extreme case of narcissism. He's very insecure. And as the result, anything he says, you cannot take it completely as the true, So he may promise to Putin anything he wants. Putin is very sophisticated man. He's professional intelligence guy who graduated, apart from being one, great, attorney, lawyer, essentially, and being obviously high school of KGB, he graduated legendary, which is now today Academy of the Foreign Intelligence, used to be Red Banner Institute, Andropov's Red Banner Institute. This is different level, intellectual and professional, and so Putin knows that, it's one thing what he says, and it's absolutely hollow for the most part. Is Trump aware? Even if he is, his personality, he's definitely not a complete moron. Let's put it this way. He's not Biden, okay? Let's put it this way. But I mean, listen, he has to be going through, together with the whole Washington, D.C., through a horrendously painful time. When you begin to recognize your impotence, military, economic. You remember what happens with those tariffs? India told the United States to go pound sand. China didn't even look at it seriously, like, go screw yourself. Russia said, okay, sure. And Brazil told the United States to go the hell out of here, So this is like slap in your face. Can you imagine for the narcissist like Trump, who thought, and he was told. I listened to yesterday with Garland Nixon when we were talking, and Nima, he ran this Navarro guy, who main economic, consultant. The guy is a certified imbecile. He was talking about Russian economy. He doesn't understand a thing. He doesn't understand how military-industrial complex works, how it is designed, And you look at this like, good Lord, you're absolutely correct. They call them adults. They are not adults. They are H.L. Mencken's proverbial, as he wrote in 1920s, morons with the PhDs. That's who they are. Unbelievable. Mencken, God bless his soul, outstanding American journal and the wordsmith, he knew it in 1920s. He wrote this famous, and with, the heart's desires of our people will finally be fulfilled, and the White House will be adorned by the downright moron.
Right.
Good Lord. So
then how long do you think we have till the conflict is over? Because, like you said, many Ukrainians are passing away. And I know that, people, this hurts normal people. They don't like to hear that. I don't like to hear it. Even though they're confused, if they're under 25, their brain's not fully developed, and they're just pawns. They're being used.
They opened 2 days ago. You probably saw it in the news. They finally opened the border for between 22 and 25 years old. This is the desperate attempt to save some remnants of the Ukrainian sperm bank. They are the breeders.
Really? Yeah. No, seriously, why are they doing that? Because Ukraine needs the men.
Yeah, NATO, Washington demanded that they, drafted 18 years old, But they are trying to save the sperm bank, which will allow Ukraine to survive, Ukrainian nation to survive in some form or shape, but because they need sperm to breed. So The first, I believe, 12 hours, they had 11,900 young people just ran out of the country, and they are going to the West. And
so who is they that's trying to do this, trying to preserve Ukrainian DNA?
There may be some Ukrainian nationalists who understand what is happening there. There are no normal people, essentially, in the political elite in Ukraine. It was always corrupt, utterly corrupt. I mean, it was very badly. Now, somebody says, yeah, they know the numbers. They know that Russians can kill pretty much. They can throw whatever they want, and the male population will be completely annihilated if it comes down to it. And, they are drafting, they're kidnapping 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. So, and Russians, you know what? I'm sorry to say it, but this is the serious business. If anybody in Brussels or Washington thought that it was the child's game from Hollywood, that's the only source of their education. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm literally telling you. Most people, including from Pentagon, they believe what Hollywood put out there about war. And I'm quoting General Robert Latif, 20 years of DARPA, PhD in physics. I mean, he wrote about it directly in 2016. Everything the American public and especially political elites know about war, they know from the entertainment industry. But evidently somebody in Ukraine understood that if it continues another year, Ukraine will have no male population to survive it will simply disappear. Russians are not doing this deliberately. It was Ukraine and NATO, war criminals from Washington and London and Brussels, who wanted this to the last Ukrainian. Russians said, okay. They believed all those stupid fairy tales, so-called Russian experts. In the West, there are no Russian experts in the West. Were seeing them, about how it will all go. They literally believed that, if we lure Russians into what that time was the strongest European military, which was armed forces of Ukraine, which were prepared, starting from Trump administration, by the way, first one, to fight Russia. The idea was they go in, we, get them into quagmire, we, inflict horrendous losses, Putin regime, begins to shake, Russians remove Putin, and here we are, the democracy, all those lipshits, all kinds of the perverts which they were preparing, morons, and we get to Russian resources, and again, back to 90s, back to Yeltsin.
So how long do you think it's going to be till the conflict ends?
I don't know. It's difficult to say, but what we see now, the Russians are moving. Russia moves constantly every day to the West. So whenever there will be no personnel left, I will give you an example. Most of the Ukrainian brigades today are at about between 20 to 30% of the personnel. They're not really brigades. They are barely regiments, okay?
Wow.
If not battalions, okay? And the grind continues. And I'm sorry to say it. I know it sounds horrible. I know. But the idea of war is a physical annihilation of your enemy. As one of the greatest Soviet and Russian strategists, Alexander Svechin, wrote about it. The taking of the territory is necessary evil, which accompanies the main object of war, to kill your enemy, destroy its personnel and industrial base. This is exactly what Russia does. And they thought, again, children in Washington, in Pentagon, they thought that these are games, that they somehow defeated this third-rate, retarded, semi-illiterate Iraqi army under the most favorable conditions, that they know what war is. They don't. They don't even teach real war in Western military academies. They're downright, ignorant. And as a result, this is what happens. And how many left? I don't know. Evidently, judging by the scale of the kidnapping and now opening the borders and we will have more statistics about how many left of those 25 and under year olds, more updated, for in the coming weeks or so. So not many left. So, and yeah, you listen to those, read reports. Russians are not in rush. They will continue to unload the firepower, and who cares how many die now? They obviously, Russians do a proper thing. They constantly work all those radio channels. They even shoot shells, which are propaganda shells. It's not the shell itself, the round. It's filled with those leaflets and things like that. And don't forget that they are brainwashed so much in armed forces of Ukraine. They believe if you are taken prisoner by Russians, they probably kill you, do something horrible, because that's what those CIA and MI6 and Nazis tell them. And then you have the barrier troops. There are many people who have been killed by their own, especially foreign volunteers. Okay, they are good only primarily sitting as the barrier troops and shoot into the backs of Ukrainians who try to retreat. Right. So we saw everything we needed to know about military operational capabilities of the West, because this is the war by the combined West against Russia, and it's lost. But you cannot explain to those people what Great Patriotic War was, because most of it is lie and fairy tales, And
Okay, again, so if we meet someone who is opening up their mind suddenly, they were a liberal last week, let's say, and we want to make a case that Ukraine regime is on its last legs, what is the simple case? It's a resource issue?
Of course, it always is. Strategy, essentially, what many people don't understand, strategy is not a business plan. Strategy is how you match your resources to the political aims of your war. And well, guess what? Russia has more resources than anybody else in the world. And it's not only just extraction. Again, you have to understand, if you are a graduate of the economics faculty or department from, let's say, Harvard, you know nothing about real economy. And I'm not kidding you. The American humanities education nowadays is an academic fraud. It's indoctrination. It has nothing to do with the free thought and ability to operate with all kinds of, resources. No, you don't know. Stanford, PhD in economics, I can tell you immediately, they know nothing. And so as the result, they go in, they believe that, this meme in Russian. You probably know, Svetlana should know. And say, but look at the capitalization of Apple. So it's like, it doesn't matter how those fictitious numbers, in the Wall Street, how many tanks can you produce? How many combat aircraft can you produce? When I tell people, Russia produces more steel and iron than the United States. There you go. One of the critical indices. Europe produces 40 tanks a year. Russia produces 1,300 a year. Russia produces 10 times more than just 10 times more, of the high precision and smart munitions than whole NATO combined. In terms of
So then if it's about to collapse, I'm just thinking, like, what is Zelensky thinking doing all these provocations outside of the conflict area, like terrorist attacks and like you saw the news about the pipeline. I mean, why? If he might be facing an international court in the near future, why is he doing this, especially when Trump is trying to be the peace negotiator?
No. Doesn't work like this.
Okay,
he has first, he has the cold barrel of the gun up to this here, back of his head, by Nazi element, which controls the policies of the whatever is left of Ukraine. And then he still believes, so in other words, if he tries to step left, right, he will be executed not by MI6 or SAS who guard him. He will be executed by his own Nazis, and those people are supported by Europe. And that's why I am on record, and I will read my lips. Europe and Europeans, most of them, not all, but Europe and Europeans are existential enemies of Russia and Russian people. Average German, let's say from Munich or something, He can tell you whatever he wants, but guess what? He hates Russian guts. They never overcame this trauma of being utterly defeated by the Red Army. They hate Russians. They would love Russians nothing more than the Russians die, their children, just so. This is normal for them. This is normal for French. This is normal for many Italians. This is normal for many British. And that's the point. I mean, many people do not understand. And when you say that, what is Zelensky thinking? Zelensky thinks he is a comedian. He played with his penis, the piano. Well, at least he tried to pretend, So okay. That's his level, okay? And so what he thinks is that Europe somehow is behind him. He obviously doesn't have understanding of the basic things which are required from the president of the country, especially country at war. And so he buys this BS of this impotent militarily and industrially Europeans who are still supporting him.
Right.
And for him, any kind of, he needs to constantly demonstrate that he can do something. What he does, obviously, he reduces himself to their, including his Ukrainian GUR and SBU, those intelligence services, terrorism, pure and simple. Terrorism is the weapon of the weak. Europe is militarily impotent. Their militaries are a joke. Their officer corps is a joke. But the guy believed it. And now, whatever they try to do, they try to manipulate Trump because they think if the United States leaves, it's over. Some of them understand that. The problem is, United States itself is a paper tiger. And that's where it all suddenly came to the realization. And now you have all kinds of the desperate means and measures attempted by the Kyiv regime and its curators. Now it's primarily London and Brussels. Will they continue there? We know, for example, the terrorist act in Crocus City a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago. It was conducted by, well, everybody knows it's MI6. That's British. British are militarily impotent. Their army is a joke. Their navy is a rusting bucket, basically, so they are. It was done through the Ukrainian special services, which recruit, obviously, IDIL and all kinds of things. Watch Afghanistan now. They would like to destabilize Taliban now. And you cannot change it because, unlike Americans are laid-back people primarily. Americans just want to be left alone, and that is why the difference. Americans in general don't hate Russians. I would never be able to live in Europe. Would be hated, I would be discriminated against, as is always the case. They would look at me as the untermensch for the most part. In the United States, I'm own guy, I'm Russian dude, but American would drink beer, drink whiskey and all that. It's absolutely normal in the United States. Not so in Europe. And the hatred of Russia is so profound there that they will support any kind of things, including the terrorism, because that's the only way they are capable of influencing anything, that they will continue to do that. And even after the situation is settled, I don't know how it will be settled and arranged politically, you will see yourself, they will continue to do things like, derailing the trains, killing political and military leaders. They would love nothing more than blow up some kindergarten. That's, that's how they think, but that's why Russia has FSB, and they do pretty good job. But terrorism is the weapon of the weak, and the combined West have been pretty much demilitarized.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's go to audience questions now while we still have some time. There's so much I could go on about this. So first question here, and guys, if you want to leave a question, even if you type it again, because it's going to be hard for me I have to focus on Andrei with one eye and read the questions with another. So put them in all caps if you can. Has the West put the world on a path to nuclear war? If so, how do we get off this path?
We already did get off. But yes, West put it on Biden administration and the bunch of the cretins which were running it, like Sullivan, Blinken, all kinds of the human trash which came through the, basically mafia of the Democratic National Committee and Obama's and all that. Yes, we could face, if Kamala would have won, that these imbeciles who do not understand anything about war and Russia, they could have brought up about the possibility of the escalation to the nuclear threshold, in which case United States would have been wiped off the face of the earth. Russia would sustain colossal, also the losses, but it probably would survive. But it's purely a military issue. That is why we went out and voted for Trump. And Trump is, in this particular respect, is a much better alternative. And he definitely doesn't want nuclear war. That's for sure. People
so you said we got off. You think Trump got us off this path, or just him?
No,
winning?
it's Russia which did, but Trump was a good. How to say it? That's the difference. You see, Europeans continue to elect, and they say, "Oh, it's all rigged." All those morons, they continue to elect them. In the United States, yes, Trump is a full of hot air. He's buffoon, and he promised obviously, but everybody knew that unlike Biden, he won't start the nuclear war. It's not yet, So in this case, but reality is the main, so to speak, circuit breaker, which keeps world in basically more or less not horrible shape in terms of nuclear war. Read my lips, and this I wrote books, and it's the Russia's massive advantage over anybody combined world in terms of the nuclear weapons and delivery systems, which are the best deterrent we ever had. I will send you there one wonderful piece of the political art, and it's actually in my blog. You will see yourself. It's the switch, the electric switch.
Yeah.
One of the part of the switch shows the nuclear war, and the other one, which doesn't allow to be turned off, is the Scotch tape with the Soviet flag on it. Not allowing to turn. So you can change it for Russian tricolor, and that's exactly what it is.
Okay, well, next question here. How does Andrei analyze the real importance and impact of the Orezhnik as of the politics of Ukraine and of the future?
It's a game changer, as any hypersonic weapon is, and that means exactly that Russians do not need even to nuke Europe, for example. It's a weapon you cannot stop, and it's in serial production. And just to give you example, and I understand people would be kind of cringing on that, but this is reality of the military analysis. If, for example, let's say Germany wants to do, which they do, Germans want to kill as many Russians as possible. But if it comes down to it, Russia doesn't need to do anything now nuclear-wise. It will be enough to send, to launch single Orezhnik, and Bundestag together with the government quarter in Berlin will be gone, while the rest of Germans will continue to live. It's just that they will wake up one day and say, oh my God, we don't have those corrupt imbeciles, who run us. After that, it's up to them. But that's the change. It's a game changer. You cannot stop any kind of the hypersonic weapons which Russia deploys now. And yeah, it's just one of the other weapons which are coming. And Putin and Lavrov already stated other things are coming, which are even scarier than Orezhnik. So it's just, natural development of the hypersonic technology.
So when they used the Orezhnik, that was an important day. That was an important signal in this entire.
Yeah, I had people immediately calling me and sending me just who know who those people in Washington are. They were shocked, Wow. But they should have been already since 2018. But yeah, it's.
Okay, so next question. Do you think the U.S. deep state will give up ever on this war?
Yeah, when the United States is bankrupted, which it is now, and it cannot sustain anymore its military expenditures, because many people do not understand. You can increase your military budget, what have you, just another 1,000%. The problem is, it doesn't still buy you more or better weapons. United States lost the arms race. It lost it with a knockout, with just leaving the ring altogether, So, and the gap will continue to grow. And the only reason United States military industrial complex exists actually is not to defend United States. Nobody going to attack United States. They exist to make money. American weapons are junk, but they are made for making profits. And as a result, Europe will be forced, which is happening right this very moment, to buy all these crap, basically, and make money for the CEOs of Raytheons, Lockheeds, and what have you. And those lobbyists and, Congress, people from Congress who are totally in the pockets of the military-industrial complex.
Right. Okay. What about, it says here, next question, what about Zaluzhny? Now that he's planning to run or take over, he still has Azov mentality. Will Russia accept him? He cannot be trusted, in my opinion.
He cannot be trusted. Yeah, he is the fully creature of the MI6 and CIA, especially MI6. That is why he was sent to London to be the ambassador of Ukraine there. The guy is a butcher. He is pathetic militarily, utterly incompetent. He killed a lot of people in Ukrainian army. He by conducting the amateurish operations, and throwing those, what is called the meat storms, and he is there to basically run the routine and being trained for possible election or something like that. Okay, let's see. I don't know. Obviously, Russia's not going to trust anybody from Ukraine, but I don't know. It's difficult to say. We don't know what is happening behind the curtain, actually, and we know that the Russians and Americans speak constantly. Whatever they talk about, don't ask me. I don't know.
Right. Okay, it says here, why is Ukraine attacking Hungary?
Because Ukrainians, as a nation, most of them, not all, but most, I don't know, 60%, 80%, the whole ideology of Ukraine after the collapse of the Soviet Union was built about hatred of everything Russian. They don't have their own culture. They don't have anything. I mean, come on. They said that Igor Sikorsky was, because he graduated at that time Russian Empire, Kiev Institute, University. Oh, he's Ukrainian. He's not. He was always Russian, and but that's the point. And when you have this, I mean, it's grotesque hatred of Russia. So anybody who goes near Russia or has any kind of the normal relations, like Hungary, which consistently blocked any kind of the anti-Russian resolutions by the European Union, they will attack Hungary, absolutely. Plus, they are soiling their pants because there is a significant Hungarian enclave in Carpathian Mountains there in Ukraine, and there were already attacks on the Hungarian churches, Hungarian communities, and so what can I say? That's what it is. The only thing, the foundation of Ukrainian culture is hatred. Simple as that.
This is my question, why do you think Hungary is different than the rest of Western Europe?
Because Orban and his Fidesz party, they are pragmatics, they are realists. They understand listen, when you have even this alcoholic Borrell, who used to be the big honcho of the European Union for the foreign affairs, a couple years ago, you can look it up, he stated very clearly, that was an admission which was, wow, so even he says so, that the prosperity of Europe for the last 50 years, now more like 60 years, have been based around Russian energy. If not for the Soviet Russian energy, Europeans, which they are going back now to living second world, very poor. So, and he admitted it. Orban knows this. Obviously, he doesn't say all things. And it's not like Hungarians love Russians. Hungarians do not like Russians, okay? So majority of Hungarian society doesn't like Russians. But it's pragmatic, realist approach. If you want to survive in the barren Europe, Europe has no resources. In terms of energy, it's the pauper peninsula of the Eurasian landmass. That is why they hate Russians. They think that those subhumans like me, Slavic, they sit on the third of the world resources. Okay, so it is so unfair in European minds. So why don't we go back as we do every century? Why don't we start creating concentration camps? And that's what they love to do. And so Orban knows this. And despite the fact that whatever the ideas of the Hungarian society about Russia are, he knows that if Hungary to survive as the country with any kind of the conservative values and any kind of prosperity, you have to have energy from Russia. And it's simple as that. There is no other way around it. It's really Boolean, 1-0. You either have one or you have nothing. You have zero, and that's why he basically builds this, relations with Russia, which are mutually beneficial economically. Russians don't care if they are liked. If you come to Russia and you won't say, let's do the good business, why not? So there you go.
Right. Okay. Next question here. Do you think that the Nazi ideology infected Western governments?
Oh, it affected European society in general. They look at Russians, majority, not all. Again, I want to make this caveat, or not fine print, but really large print. Not all, but majority of European societies, France, United Kingdom, Germany, they do not consider Russians Europeans. They consider, like me, they consider us Asiatic, Slavic, barbaric hordes. We are subhumans. And so in this case, nothing changed, especially in Germany, which never recovered from this, utter destruction. So they will continue to hate. What can I say? You cannot change it.
I wonder why it is that, because I've heard other people say this, that Western Europe just considers Russian people other. Like, why?
We're other, yeah, subhumans, not others, subhumans, Asiatic hordes, so. And you know what? If you want to know the answer, there's a beautiful piece in Tolstoy's War and Peace. When he was talking about the fool the guy was a German military thinker who was also, participating on the Russian side, fighting Napoleon. Read those wonderful definitions of those Europeans, so they really think that they are such an incredible people. And again, that's what 500-year-long domination, and we live in the world shaped by these people, right, including obviously the horrible crimes they committed. But they still think that they're so great. The fact that Europe was the place of origin of two most devastating wars in the world history, they forget about that, of course. They forget about, concentration camps. They forget about Nazis. They forget about the World War II with the 80 million people who died as the result. They forget about all that. But we do live in the world shaped by the Western civilization. Right. And again, look at this. We live in the physical world, which is literally shaped by people who created the science, physics and mathematics of all that. We communicate right now over the internet, which is actually, by the way, many people don't understand. For example, Jares Arsorov, he got Nobel Prize in physics. He took part very much. That's why he got the Nobel Prize in development of the type of the what is called the semiconductors and structures, which allowed to development of all those fast speed, all kinds of the internet connections and things like that. Of course, it has other applications, and of course, chemistry. Russians played a critical role. Mendeleev table, periodical table, which of course in the West it's called just periodical table.
Periodic table. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, who created it? Oh yeah, this Russian dude, So yeah, that's how it is. And they think that they are great. What they don't understand, they killed themselves in the 20th century. United States stepping in after the World War II into Europe with the Marshall Plan and all kinds of things which followed, including, of course, their buying this BS by the Gehlen organization, about the Soviets wanted to Europe for some reason. They extended life of Europe by 70 years. But in historical terms, it's nothing. So that was the last gasp. And I always state that you have to consider what is happening, a special military operation, as the final salvos of the World War II. And we are World War III. We are in the World War III, but these are the final salvos of the World War II. And Europe, delenda est. Europe must die as it exists today because it's a horrible place, and society is completely decomposed, immoral, no integrity, no humanity left in them.
Right. Okay. So you said you think we are in World War III. Okay, so next question, Andrei. Where do you recommend as a place to live in Russia? Your perspective would be interesting. Thanks for talking to us.
Oh God, let me tell you, not around Moscow. During summer, and especially those moth pits when they begin to burn and think, but again, for people who want first, it is amazing city. Moscow is
I'm in
just
Moscow.
yeah, Moscow
It's good
is
for
an
me.
amazing city. It's just mind-boggling. That is why very many people who never have been to Moscow from the West, they come in, they are stunned. I mean, they're all those Londons and Paris look like dumpsters, compared to Moscow. So
Right.
but around Moscow, yeah, sure, there are many wonderful now communities which are popping here and there, all around, Russia. St. Petersburg is again climate. It's St. Petersburg, and again, they are expensive cities. Make no mistake. You also will have to have good wherewithal to live in Crimea, or let alone Sochi. And the Caucasus coast of the Black Sea, which is Russian Riviera. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's like saying, where do you want to live in the United States? I mean, it's so big and there's so many different places.
Vladivostok is awesome, but you have to fly 7.5 hours to Moscow. And especially the winters in Vladivostok screw that, and summers could be also very unpleasant, but it's a boom town together with Khabarovsk, which are just crazily developing. So there are many places in Siberia one can consider, Novosibirsk, around Novosibirsk. But then again, you get into the sharply continental climate with the very hot summers and very cold winters. So it depends, Yekaterinburg, some people say, oh, we love Yekaterinburg. Sure, that's beautiful. Your own mountains, yeah.
Okay, here, let me give you this question. It just popped up. Where would you live if you have a teen going into university? Which universities are good? Well, again, it depends on their specialty.
Yeah, oh my God. Russia has like stunning universities, actually. Obviously, we're not talking about Moscow universities. It's clear. And especially if you go in technology, I can tell you one thing which makes MIT look like pathetic, pretenders. It's Bauman State Technical Institute, which gave the birth to Soviet space program and all weapons and industry development. So. And you can go to Moscow State University. You can go to, St. Petersburg State, wonderful schools, and there are wonderful schools in Novosibirsk and Novosibirsk State University, top notch. I mean, absolutely top notch, world class. And that is why I don't read those rankings, which is complete garbage. So you want to go to the university to produce the cutting edge, education in terms of cutting edge technologies and industrial development. So many of them, again, as I already stated, well, people say Yekaterinburg also good. I don't know much about it. Yekaterinburg is sort of like liberal capital of the bunch of, but Novosibirsk State is wonderful. I mean, it's legendary, in fact.
I'll keep that in mind. I haven't visited Ekaterinburg yet, but I want to. It's towards the top of my list. I wonder if you're coming here before you've learned Russian, if it's better to live in Moscow or, well, obviously a bigger city.
Moscow is expensive. Moscow is freaking expensive as any city of this scale and standard of living is. And yeah, again, many people do not understand what Moscow is until they end up there. It's like, what the hell, man? So,
well, I want to ask you a kind of an off-topic, I'm sure, stupid question, but recently I was in Viborg, and it's a city that has changed hands several times, right, from different countries.
Yeah,
and I thought to myself, well, could this be why Europe fears Russian expansionism? I don't think Russian expansionism is something to be afraid of, but is this like an example of a city that was captured? Or, I was asking around the people that were there. I couldn't really get a straight answer. So I thought I might ask you. So what do you know about Viborg? How do you explain?
Scandinavians are actually paranoid. And do not forget, Swedes hate Russians for a reason that Russia was the one which basically offed the empire. By the time of Peter the Great, Sweden was the superpower of the North. They were second most important country. Empire after British Empire, essentially.
Right.
And so here comes Peter the Great and just beats the crap out of them. At Poltava, then St. Petersburg is built and all that. So they have this, grudge, long go. Same goes for Poles. Russia's, they, from Morze to Morze, from sea to sea, Polish Empire, and so off they go. They attack Russia. They take even Kremlin, and then it all ends up so badly. Russians just come and capture the whole Poland. Okay, so there are many historical grudges, and they go through centuries. Yeah, and as I already stated, keep in mind, a lot of Europe actually subscribed very much to Nazi ideology. Not all of Europe, but remember, French said, well, we surrender. So Vichy government was pretty good for them. Okay, have you seen very many people there fighting in resistance? French resistance is a joke. Okay, and the only guys actually who fought partisans were Italians, as a matter of fact, but they had their fascist government and the lies of Hitler. So you look at this. Europe was okay with Hitler and Nazis, Wehrmacht, and doing their thing. Lebensraum, and then reduce Russians to about 30 million as the slaves. No, literacy and all that. They remove basically all cities like Moscow and Leningrad. Leningrad was supposed to be one huge hole. So Swedes helped, neutral Swedes. Finns took direct part until 1944, when Mannerheim suddenly recognized that it's over. Let's go to talk to Stalin. Okay,
right.
But that's what we are. Slavs are subhumans. We are Untermenschen. So, and that's how Europe thinks and always did. And especially since the Baron de Custine, who wrote about this, like, scratch Russian and you get the Tatar there, So it's his famous memoirs. And again, as I already stated, if you look at what has been taught for decades about Soviet Union and Russia, it's good Lord, it's some fanatical hatred. It's just, there's no real understanding of what is going on. And it's fact is, many people do not understand. That's why they even translate Ivan Grozny wrongly for a reason. Actually, Ivan
Grozny on purpose.
Of course, it's on purpose. Ivan Grozny is not Ivan Terrible. Grozny in Russian means menacing.
Okay, all right.
So, and you know what? It's like.
So if you guys don't know who are watching, Ivan the Terrible, you've heard that before. That's the way it's said in the West. So
well,
over here it's Ivan Grozny.
The menacing.
So Ivan the menacing.
It has nothing to do about people. Actually, he killed less people throughout his reign. There, for example, the Huguenots, the famous, Vendée, and what can I say? Sure, but Russians are bloodthirsty. Well, Solzhenitsyn took a huge part in convincing that Russians are, all treasonous, all gulag-loving, or gulag-hating. It's all gulag. In Russia, everything gulag. You go to your nearest Peterechka, it's gulag. And Solzhenitsyn is called, he was one of the greatest CIA and, the propaganda information operation against Soviet Union.
Because 10 years ago, I thought, Solzhenitsyn, I guess he was a good guy. He's a good Russian guy.
No, he is.
And now I've learned, living here.
Yeah, he is. But they still continue to teach based on him. And, it's like Doug McGregor. Doug McGregor, I respect him as professional, but he knows nothing about Russian Soviet history. He was completely brainwashed by his German friends. And he still believes that NKVD killed 1+ million people behind lines. Those, it's like they times 10. Solzhenitsyn, again, what can I say?
Right. All right. Well, Andrei, I want to make sure I get you out on time. You want to say anything else or give us your channel name again so people know where to find you?
It's Reminiscence of the Future, my blog, and Smoothie X12 channel on YouTube. Okay. So that's pretty much it. And they can buy my books. So that's for sure.
Yes, please buy his books, guys, and I'll put a link to your blog as well,
Blog,
because
yeah,
right now
yeah,
it's
the
only the
blog. So,
YouTube.
yeah, yeah.
And thanks so much for coming on, man. I'm glad that we got to connect.
There you go. So yeah, I've been posting yours, your Brady Bunch wonderful videos all the time. Yes, I love it,
Dude, I
So,
really appreciate it. I really
yeah,
appreciate
it's wonderful. Say hello to Svetlana and your kids. Just hug them. So enjoy
I
your life
will.
in Russia.
I
So
will. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching us. And I will, if you don't know what Russia really looks like, I'll leave you with a montage of something that he's talking about right now. Thanks for watching.
Знаешь, как им тяжело в сапогах ходить, Максим?